Hello, W9TVX here, and this is the second in the series of videos about SDRStudio. The first video, for those of you who haven't watched it, is a brief introduction, and I strongly encourage you to watch that before continuing with this video. In this video, we're going to talk a lot more about the widget composer, which is where you create your own custom widgets. For those of you who watched the video yesterday, you recall we created a couple of launcher buttons. One of them is use the tune built-in widget, and the other one was a simple SDR meter that we created. So today we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to take a look at our widget library. And again, those of you who watched the video yesterday recall that we created a very simple user widget that was just a simple meter, which was the FWR meter. So I'm going to create a new custom widget here, and that's going to launch the widget composer. And the widget composer is comprised of 3 panels. On the left side is a property inspector and editor. This sets the properties of the widget and of the components that we add to the widget. And we'll see, we'll look into that a little bit more later on in the video. In the middle is the canvas on which we drop components and where we manipulate them to create our user widget. The canvas has typical features such as being able to group components, distribute them, align them. You can set a grid, snap to grid, etc. Pretty standard stuff. Okay, so what we have on the far right-hand side is essentially our components panel. There are 4 tabs along the top. The first one is a set of built-in components. Well, I'll go through each one of these shortly. Next to that is user widgets. These are widgets that you create and which you say are placeable under the features. And I'll again talk about this a little bit more as well. When you say a widget's placeable, it becomes available in this panel here that you can add it to the canvas and essentially build on top of it. Library widgets are those library widgets which can also be placed. And then shapes are simple shapes such as rectangle, text, and line. And I anticipate adding further types like polygon to it later on. So let's go back to the built-in components. And I'm going to touch very briefly on each one of these. And subsequent videos will go much further in depth. At the top, we have the action command component. This component allows you to create a button to which you assign a set of actions. And those actions can be things such as setting the RF power, setting the demodulation mode, the frequency, RX filters, etc., etc. So kind of like flex buttons. I don't know if some of you might be familiar with that application. Next one is a command line component. This is kind of a techie component. It allows you to type in commands that you would send using the Flex TCP/IP API. So you can directly interact with your radio by typing a command into the prompt, and it'll show you what the response from the radio. The radio Boolean component, that's essentially a toggle button, and that enables you to toggle Boolean radio parameters on and off. Think of things like toggling Vox on and off, toggling the dynamic expander on and off, etc. Underneath that is the equalizer component, where you can create a transmit or receive equalizer. Radio frequency component, obviously for setting and displaying radio frequency for a given slice. A radio list component, that is for those radio parameters that are lists. Things like, the mic, the audio source, it could be the compressor level, etc. Underneath that is a meter component. This allows you to set up a bunch of different meters, and this shows digital, but you can have a digital or analog meter. I can show you. So this is the digital, and I can say the meter kind is analog, and it becomes an analog meter. I'm going to just delete that. Numeric component is for those radio parameters that are numerics. Everything from RF power, volumes, AM carrier, etc. Radio preset, this is a button that you can set for a particular value. If you, for example, volume, if you click that button, it'll set the value and light up, and will always light up. Anytime that value becomes the preset value, it will light that button up. Profile component is for selecting radio profiles, the different profiles. So you have mic, transmit, and global profile. The RX filter component is for setting the RX filter. You can set the low cutoff, the high cutoff, the width, etc. And there's a bunch of presets, very much like Smart SDR. Radio text is actually pretty powerful in that it encapsulates radio numerics, radio lists, and radio toggles. It shows them as a text value, and at runtime you can click on that text value and set the actual underlying parameter. Slice selector component's a little interesting in that it's a little bit more complex, and it basically is applicable when you have components that rely or require a slice. Things like frequency or the filter component. If you, in your widget, provide a slice selector, then at runtime you can set the slice that widget uses for the components on that widget. If you have a component that requires a slice and you don't provide a slice select component, well, then it will use the master slice component that's on the main window. I know it's a little complicated. I'll touch on that again in either later on in this video, but more likely in another video. You have space weather, which we have courtesy of a ham QSL, and you can pick from a number of different space weather parameters. And then finally a world clock, where you can have either an analog or a digital clock. I think it's on the mode, analog or a digital clock. And you can set time zones and a lot of different values. As you noted at the beginning of the video, I said on the left-hand side we have the property inspector, and as you select different add and select different components, different sets of properties will appear. For example, I've added the time here, and I'll add another component, which is like the SWR. And when I click on time, the time component, you'll see I can select the mode. I can decide whether to show seconds. I can pick the city. I won't go through every one of these, but I can decide whether I want to show the date or not. I can set the font. I can use a flag background if I want, which puts it like, in the case this is the London, so it puts the British flag behind it. In the case of meters, I can decide the meter kind. I can pick which meter, which is the radio property. Do I want mic level? Do I want SWR voltage, etc.? All kinds of different things. I could change the size of the meter. All different parameters, scale, etc. I'm not going to go through every one of these. One other feature that you have is that or a number of other features that we have in the widget composer is that you can always go to a live view, and when you go live, is essentially this component it goes into its runtime mode. So then if I go back to over here to Smart SDR and I turn on tune, you'll see that the SWR meter over here in SDRStudio becomes live. Also, like I said, you have things that you can zoom in, you can change the grid, you can show a grid, all these different kinds of features. Anyway, I think that's enough for this video. It's getting somewhat longer. In the next video, what we will do is we will take one of our library widgets and break it apart and show how it uses the different components. And then subsequent to that, I'll create a number of videos going in depth into each of the components. Hope this was useful, and I look forward to future videos.